Spring training is underway, and we got updates on three very, very important players for the Cardinals' upcoming 2026 season on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to our everydayers for always being here. Thank you to our new people. Welcome aboard. Welcome in. Gather around. Let's talk some ball. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all the info about the birds on the bat. Little extra pep in my step here today because spring training is here. It is happening. On today's show, we'll have the latest MLB news and notes, which includes a not surprising release of a former Silver Slugger winner. But our focus today is on the updates, all of the updates that we got from Chaim Bloom in Jupiter, Florida at spring training. The Cardinals president of baseball operations spoke with a media scrum for about 20 minutes today. And per usual, was very, very transparent, which we love, about things that are going on with the team, the new facilities. Obviously, everybody's very excited about how that looks. But injury situations are a big thing. I'm going to start there. Let's start with the injuries because for the most part, the Cardinals appear to be relatively healthy coming into the season. But there are three names that are coming off injuries from last season that should be major cogs for what this active roster is going to be this upcoming season. They are catcher Ivan Herrera, outfielder Lars Nootbaar, and newly acquired pitcher Hunter Dobbins. Now, let's start with Lars Nootbaar, who we heard might have been somebody that they listened in for deals. You know, there were rumors that certain teams were interested in him, but coming off the double heel surgery this offseason probably made the offers they were getting were probably kind of weak, probably very underwhelming, pennies on the dollar, not that Lars Nootbaar is a superstar by any means, but he's got some worth and he's not old, right? And he doesn't cost a lot of money yet. So people were probably trying to lowball the Cardinals, I would imagine. I know I would if I thought Lars Nootbaar had a future for my team. I wouldn't be offering up a whole lot just to see if the Cardinals would bite. They did not. But again, the double heel surgery probably threw some people off. From everything I've heard, they expect him to be their starting left fielder along with Victor in center, then Jordan Wright. But the question is, will he be healthy? When's he going to be healthy? When's he going to be ready to play? And Chaim had this to say about it during that media scrum today. Said Noot's on track. There's a part of the progression he's on now that involves a piece of equipment that because of the newness of the complex, we don't have it here yet. So we actually want him to complete that progression. So he's going to do that at the facility in Southern California and then come here actually so we can keep him on track. So he'll be a couple days late for full squad. He'll come after the first full squad workout, but not because of any setback, just so we can keep him on track with the progression. Now, later on in the scrum, they asked Chaim about, what equipment are we talking about? Said it's called an Alter G treadmill. I'm not a treadmill guy. I hate running in general. I lift weights. I'll ride the bikes. That's my cardio, but I am not the person who's going to get on treadmills and run anytime soon. So I don't know what an Alter G treadmill is. Chaim kind of expanded on it, said they don't have that here. They will. It's just not here yet. He said it allows you to kind of modify the stresses on your body when you're running. So he is in a running progression, but it's been in along the lines of the rehab. It's been something that's been more controlled. So, they're just being smart about it. They don't have the equipment yet. When we get that equipment, then Lars will come to camp and we can keep him on whatever plan is already in place for him to keep him going in the direction they want him to. When asked about his availability for opening day, Chaim Bloom said that they had yet to make that determination. He's not going to be ready to play in games when games start here, talking about spring training. But beyond that, we don't really have a calendar built out. I think once he's been here for a couple weeks, we'll probably have a better idea of what that looks like. He's doing well. I think the important thing is making sure that the progression is appropriate, that he has enough under him, not just physically, but also hitting-wise to be ready for a season. What and where that will take us, we haven't figured that out yet. So good news, right? Nothing bad to report there. Newt hasn't had any setbacks. Everything's going according to plan. They're waiting for the proper accommodations and treadmills to show up. So Newt appears to be ready to go, and they like where he's at, but don't have enough information yet as far as the timetable about when he's going to be available for any sort of games, whether that is in the spring, whether that's for opening day. They just don't know yet. Hunter Dobbins is another important name to keep track of, considering that I think when healthy, when the rotation is healthy, that he's going to be one of the 5 guys that's in the starting rotation. I believe it's going to be him, Libby, McGreevy, Dustin May, and people seem to be very, very much impressed with what Kyle Leahy is going to offer as a starter. So I'll just roll with that. I'll say Kyle Leahy will be my guy. But as you know, he hurt his knee last year, which is what shut him down in Boston, into that season prematurely, and he's still recovering from that. Here's what Chaim had to say when it came to Hunter Dobbins. Says he's doing well arm-wise. Arm-wise, doing well. He's right on track. It's just because of the fact that it was an ACL. There's a progression there that we need to build out. So he's doing everything off the mound, but he's not doing any kind of uncontrolled agility type stuff. He also mentioned that Dobbins has an appointment next week, after which they'll know more about a timetable for him moving forward. I believe one of the reporters during the scrum asked that, or mentioned that they saw him flipping baseballs to the pitchers who were practicing covering first base in their drill session today. So obviously he's not doing any of that stuff yet, but he's out there. He's there. He's with the team, getting to know people and participating in whatever he can participate in at this point. No need to rush him. Doesn't make sense to do anything like that. Rushing him would be stupid. This is not a win now situation where if he's not ready opening day, the team is screwed. It's fine. It's fine. And they got depth this time around. Normally, they wouldn't have depth behind him. They'd be like, hey, we don't know what the hell we're going to do. We'll probably sign some old fart off the free agent pile and see if that guy can give us some innings. But this time around, you've got a Richard Fitz, who you acquired from Boston. You've still got Andre Pallante there, who can get you through a few starts if you need him to. But I think when it's all said and done, just based off pure stuff, just of what I've seen, that Dobbins is going to be in the guy in the rotation over Fitz and Pallante when everybody's healthy. But that's just me. That's who I think belongs there. Then you've got the situation with Ivan Herrera, who Chaim also talked about. Bad news. Received some bad news about Ivan Herrera's participation in the WBC. We'll talk about all of that coming up next year on Locked On Cardinals. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. Don't let it. This year, TurboTax is going to make it easier than ever to just hand things off, and you get to move on with your day because TurboTax's full service will take care of the rest. You can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, have you ever tried to do your own taxes? Like, I've done it. I've tried it. It's not fun. There's nothing enjoyable about that unless you're a numbers guru that really likes to get in there and fill out boxes. I'm not that guy. So I roll with TurboTax. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. It's up to you. They're going to handle everything from your W-2s to the self-employed forms. I got a ton of those, and they're going to work to get you every deduction you can possibly get. You upload your documents, you go about your day while they do the work, get the updates right there in the TurboTax app. Huge time saver. Gives you real peace of mind knowing that an actual expert and not yourself is handling things. So it's not on you. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just make sure you file by February 28th. That's going to give you a couple weeks here. So get on it. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Take it up a level. Go ad-free. You can join our Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Cardinals with no interruptions. We've got the members-only Discord access, all for just $5 a month, or you can go $50 a year. It's up to you. Go to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, let's talk about Ivan Herrera, a guy who I'm a big fan of. I love the bat. Loved it so much that I went out and bought a pair of his pants that he had, one of his uniform pants to go with the collection. I've got some things back here, some signed spikes and, some cleats and some batting gloves and stuff like that. But so I got Ivan Herrera. Like I went in, I was like, yeah, I trust this guy. I want this guy to be a part of the collection because I think he's got a bright future. Had a solid year last year, 284, 19 home runs, 66 ribbies, OPS plus of 136, did it all in 388 at-bats. Only appeared in 107 games due to the injuries that we all know about. And when talking about reasons why this team could be better than some people think, and if you looked at the projections, people are down big time on the Cardinals this year. Some places have them not winning over 70 games this year, which would be just brutal. But a big part of the reason why they might surprise some people and be better is the combination of him and Burley as your 3-4 guys there in the batting order. Maybe they move up 2 and 3, whatever. They're going to be a main piece of the puzzle, right? Well, he wants to get back to catching this year. We know that, something that the org is supporting, but he had to have surgery on the elbow this year because he had to move some parts. It wasn't like Tommy John or anything like that. Had some loose pieces going on in there. Had to get that taken care of. Was thrown with a lot of pain last year. So hopefully that's one of the reasons why he was hindered so much behind the plate. Had the leg injury. So kind of a fresh start as a catcher for Ivan Herrera coming into the season. But there's clearly some question as to whether he's going to be ready to throw like you need him to throw when opening day rolls around. Can he be the main catcher come opening day after recovering from the surgeries to recovering from the leg injuries from last year? Now, one of the things that happened, and this is sad for Ivan Herrera, is he was really hoping to play for Panama in the World Baseball Classic, was just going to DH, wasn't going to be catching, but got the bad news that he was unable to secure the insurance needed to participate. According to Derek Gould at STLtoday.com, he's been turned down twice already. And Ivan eventually went to his Instagram account, announced that he will not be participating and that it was one of the saddest moments of his career. So you feel bad for Ivan there because it's not like you get that many opportunities to represent your country. It's why we think the Olympics are so cool. It's why the WBC is so cool. It's why in hockey you've got the Four Nations thing, like all of that stuff. It's awesome to represent your country. And sad that he won't be able to do it this year with Panama. Luckily, Ivan is young, and hopefully he'll only get better and stay healthy and be ready to rock the next time the WBC rolls around. But as far as his health is concerned for the Cardinals, here's what Chaim had to say about Ivan Herrera. Said he's happy with what we've seen. He's not 100%. He's progressing. He's in the middle of both a hitting and a throwing progression. Hitting obviously needed to take some time, just coming off of surgery. He's doing well. There's a lot more work ahead of us, but he's on track to be ready for the season, but he's not 100% right now. The hitting is ahead of the catching right now in terms of games, but there's still issues to work through. He also kind of, touched upon the insurance issues and the WBC, saying he's been so motivated to participate in it. So, to the extent that he gets in the way, that this gets in the way, it's a bummer for him. Talking about the insurance side of it, it's a bummer for him that it's not going to work out because they knew how much it meant to him. Said he's been amazing at that and very open with them and in communication. From their standpoint, obviously there's a lot we're trying to accomplish with him on both sides of the ball. We just want to make sure what he's ready to do. Now, when it comes to roster construction, which was another thing that was brought up after they got the injury updates, specifically left field, and more talking about Newt, because we know we've got catchers. We've got guys that can be behind the plate if Ivan Herrera is not ready to go. Hunter Dobbins also mentioned, hey, we've got depth at the starting rotation and pitching wise where we can cover him for a few weeks, obviously. But Newt in left field, that's been something that's been brought up by a lot of people, myself included. Like, all right, what are we going to do if Newt's not ready? Because I'm going to assume Lars Nootbaar is not going to be ready for opening day. I'm just going to assume that. And then if we're surprised and he's there, great, cool. If he's not, what are we going to do? Who's going to be standing out there in left field against the Tampa Bay Rays? As they asked him about that asked Chaim Bloom about that. He brought up the name Nathan Church, who was up on the roster at the end of the season last year. He said that, talking about Church, the guy can play any outfield position, and we think there's more in the bat than what he showed at the big league level last year. So we do feel we have some depth there in addition to some center field insulation. But certainly as we look at that, whether short-term, long-term, I've been saying it, and we haven't yet made an acquisition along those lines. We're continuing to look for that right fit. We do have some opportunity potentially in that outfield. Ideally, it's from the right side, but, that was going to be something we're going to look at either way. He did continue saying, I don't think it's a need. So it's not like it's a pressing thing where he's like, we got to get this done or we are screwed. He doesn't think it's a need, but he says that it is something we would like to do. Definitely want it to be the right fit. I mean, we do have some guys in camp we've talked about that can get some opportunity out there just as part of bouncing around the field. And I think it'll be good for them and good for us. Some players who will be able to compete for that, but we're continuing to look to add to that. Now, when he talks about people bouncing around the field, I can only assume that he's talking about, a guy like a Thomas Ujasi, who seems to be a fantastic athlete, can play all three infield positions, second, third, and short, has got some speed, some athleticism. Why not? Why not give him a shot as a corner outfielder, specifically left field, if they need him to play there? Why not? Jose Fermin, we've heard about him taking balls before. Ivan Herrera has played some left field from time to time. So we know that they have tried to put some guys out there. They signed Nelson Velasquez, offers a lot of pop from the right side of the plate. But, it was like in that one burst when he was with the Royals that he was good. And then things have not been quite the same for him, although he had a pretty good winter league. But I think they're still looking. I do. And Chaim Bloom is not shy about this, which has been great. He's like, yeah, we're actively looking, we're still looking at stuff, we're trying to improve the roster each and every day. He did briefly talk about the trade of Andre Granillo for George Soriano. Was asked why they would, it's the same question that a lot of us ask. Why would you trade a guy that's got a lot of option flexibility for someone who does not? And Chaim's response to that was that, the flexibility that players with options give you is still really valuable. He says we were very mindful of that just in thinking about this deal. Really, for us, we saw an opportunity in Soriano to get somebody who we like, who we think is already better than what his big league results have been. And we saw a few different ways potentially to make improvements there and obviously partner with him to help unlock a few more things. And wanted to get him in camp. Obviously, he's been available a couple times this offseason. We've talked about how many times he's been on waivers already since November. He said we weren't able to snag him then, wanted to be able to get him in camp and see if those improvements take. And you basically, given that we had that thought, then our pitching and acquisition teams had the thought that there might be a little more here with this player that always showed. We wanted to stick our necks out there a little bit, have a chance to put that into action, but definitely mindful of the fact that doing so is replacing somebody who has a little more flexibility. How that all is going to pan out when we get to the end of spring, I don't know yet, but we just didn't want to miss an opportunity to take a shot at someone that we think was still had upside there. So he even admitted, which was kind of a funny moment in the scrum, where he admitted, they asked him, is this, did you guys have claims on him before? I don't know who asked the question. I only heard it, he was, said that, yeah, we did. He was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you guys that. But he admitted that they had claims on him before, but the waivers never made it to where the Cardinals were, so they could claim him. So he is someone they like, clearly, somebody that they targeted. And if they weren't high on Granillo, and nothing that they've done with him in recent years shows that they thought all that highly of him. They were like, he's fine, but they weren't all that excited about him. Something about Soriano they dig. Okay. So why not go for it? Right. This is the time to make decisions like that. So that's what they did. Now, as far as any other additions, he did say, as I mentioned, he expects to be active as the spring goes on, just like they have been throughout the offseason already. And one of the guys that we've brought up as a possibility here on the show, although highly unlikely, I've acknowledged this, highly unlikely, as a right-handed bat, just got released from his team. We're going to talk about him next on Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So the Phillies have done it. They pulled the rug out from under the Nick Castellanos contract. They are done with him. They released him despite owing him $20 million for the final year of that 5-year deal that he signed with them after his best season in the pros that he had with the Cincinnati Reds. The team has reportedly tried to trade him the last couple of off seasons without any takers. People are bringing up the incident in Miami as something that is one of the reasons why he's no longer there. One of the reasons why this relationship soured the way it did when he was removed. Remember that? I don't know. Maybe you don't remember, but there was this situation brought up where they're like, why don't you take Nick Castellanos out of the games late in games and replace him with a better defensive player when you got a lead? And it was something that they didn't really do. And then they finally did it. And when they did it finally, it was in Miami. And in response to being pulled from the game for a defensive replacement, Nick Castellanos decided to go grab a beer and take it into the dugout with him. Not a great idea, Nick. Not a great idea. Ends up getting benched the next game. And from there on out, it was more of like a platoon role for him in right field. He's always been what I would consider a feisty player, a lot of spirit, if you will. I'm not saying that's always a negative thing. We've been on the wrong side of it as Cardinals fans, where you've seen this guy where his excitement for the game and his excitement for winning has taken over. We saw it again, Jake Woodford in that situation. He's a competitive guy. And when the juices are flowing and something good happen and he doesn't hold in the emotions, man, Nick Castellanos will let her fly. But having those kind of guys in your clubhouse, it sometimes can be a very good thing. It's got to be the right group of guys. He's got to fit in well with that kind of a group. Sometimes it can be a not so good thing, and sometimes it can rub certain people wrong. But now that he's been released, I was kind of, I want to say, like, I understood if you were going to tinker with him, if you traded for him, because you would trade for him, you would give them nothing. Phillies would pay the contract and you would have to pay him hardly anything. But now that you don't have to trade for him, now that he can sign with whoever he wants for whatever he wants, I would guess that the Cardinals' interest in him is probably less than zero. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. John Heyman was tweeting out that there is a lot of interest in him, which I figured there would be. He said the teams were just waiting for his release rather than trading an asset for him. It would have worked out in the Cardinals situation if he had to trade for him, if it was somebody they were going to be interested in. And again, we brought it up. I didn't think it would ever happen. I still don't expect them to show any interest in him. He's not a good outfielder. Just go look at the metrics. Terrible in the outfield. Doesn't really sound like a kind of guy that you want in a younger Cardinals clubhouse. And it doesn't seem like a place that he would want to play in the first place, because he wants to play for winners. So I could see him end up in a spot like Chicago, where he's been before. One of the New York teams, he's got kind of that attitude that seems like it would fly in New York, where they can handle stuff like that. I could see him going back to Detroit. I think that would make a lot of sense too. They got a very left-handed heavy squad up north in Detroit. So somewhere that is in the mix to win this season is where I think it makes a lot more sense for Nick Castellanos to land. I don't think it's going to be with the Cardinals. Another name that fans are bringing up is former Philly, but everybody knows him from the Pirates, Andrew McCutchen, who, if he wants to continue playing, I assume he does. It doesn't appear that it's going to be in Pittsburgh, because after the Pirates signed former Cardinal Marcell Ozuna, that seemingly signaled that it was going to be the end of Andrew McCutchen in Pittsburgh. Now, some fans think that he'd be a great guy to bring in, and that he fits what the Cardinals would be looking for, which is a veteran right-handed bat. He does fit that side of it, but at the same time, the Cardinals aren't looking, at least I don't think they are looking for a guy who's almost strictly a DH. And Andrew McCutchen has not played in the outfield all that often in recent years. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense where that guy maybe once in a while plays the outfield, but you want somebody that gives you flexibility to stick them in twice a week if you need to, even more if injuries happen. And McCutchen would not give you that. As a human, McCutchen's great. Like, you would love that guy in the Cardinals clubhouse. It would make a ton of sense. But the on-field side of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So same with Castellanos, who will likely get paid decently and stinks in the field. That's why he doesn't make sense. Hitting numbers have been on the decline. So it never made sense for me to have Nick Castellanos come in. Just something, it was creating conversation is what we're doing, boys and girls. That's what it's all about. Big names, but not what I think the Cardinals need at this point. It's why I still like the Randal Grichuk fit. It still makes a lot of sense to me. But again, it has to be someone willing to play for a rebuilding team on the very early cusp of the rebuild. This is not like we're 3 years into this thing. Like, this is just kind of getting going. That would not get guaranteed at bats. You're not going to be a guaranteed starter, but who can also swing it against lefties and play the outfield, preferably somebody who can play all three spots, but certainly somebody who can play both corners. Grichuk does fit that mold, but do the Cardinals fit what Randal Grichuk wants? Does he even want to come to the Cardinals? Does he want to be a part of a rebuild? That's something we don't know. And if winning is the most important thing for him instead of just playing, then St. Louis does not make sense. So we'll see what they decide to do. Quick shout out to Miles Michaelis. Found himself a home. The Lizard King is going to a follow. I hope he's not stalking Alexa Dad, but he's not. I'm joking. But he and Alexa, who we lost in free agency, also taking his talents to Washington. So good for Miles. Cannot wait for him to throw 6 shutout innings against us next year at some point, because it's what former Cardinals do. They come back and shove it to us. Cardinals also released their TV plan, saying that fans will be able to catch 29 of the club's 30 spring contests on either Cardinals.tv, which we talked about them launching, Matrix Midwest, KMOX, and 104.1 FM. The Cardinals Radio Network affiliates or MLB digital platforms. Spring training schedule will consist of 28 Grapefruit League games and 2 exhibition matchups against Team Nicaragua at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium and the club's AA affiliate Springfield Cardinals at Hammonds Field. Cardinals.tv and MLB.tv will stream 16 spring training contests in 2026 with live game coverage beginning on Monday, February 23rd, which is 11 days from now, when the Cardinals host the Marlins at Roger Dean Stadium. All 16 spring training games on Cardinals.tv and MLB.tv will be free to stream for fans with a valid MLB.com account. It doesn't say you have to pay for it. You just sign up for an account. Games can also be streamed on the MLB app and via Cardinals.com. Additionally, 8 of the Cardinals TV spring telecasts will be simulcast locally on free over-the-air Matrix Midwest, over-the-air on Channel 32 and Channel 6 on Spectrum Charter. Chip Carey will handle play-by-play duties along with Brad Thompson, so no changes there. Stephen Carey, Chip's son, will serve as an analyst, while the team's new host reporter and St. Louis native Danny Wexelman will make her debut for 2 spring matchups. People were very excited to see Danny Wexelman get the job. A lot of praise for her online, so that's cool. She's going to share reporter duties with Jim the Cat Hayes, who returns on opening day and will be at all Cardinals home games in his 25th season covering Cardinals baseball. Good to see the Cat coming back. And the team's flagship radio station, as far as radio side, KMOX 104.1 FM, 11:20 a.m. will broadcast 18 spring games with John Rooney, Ricky Horton, Mike Claiborne, and Matt Pauley. No changes there either. They'll all be behind the microphones. Radio schedule begins with the club's Grapefruit League opener against Washington on Saturday, February 21st. Cardinals spring training games will also be carried on the 168 Cardinals Radio Network affiliates. Fans are encouraged to check their local listings for details. So there's the availability. There's the updates from Chaim Bloom. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Hey, if you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Find us on TikTok, Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel. Our love for the Cardinals grows. We push for 14,000 subscribers. If you never miss an episode, that Everydayer Club, it is built for you. Check out Locked On STL Cardinals.supercast.com to join the club. Get Locked On Cardinals ad-free. Also access to the members-only Discord. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. For those of you listening audio-wise, make sure you make Locked On MLB with Sully your next stop. You're the best fans of baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.